Hi, everybody, and welcome to Mysteries of Sleep World. What would happen if humans created a black hole? Imagine this. You're lying on a cool, slightly too firm mattress. It's late. You're drifting. And somewhere miles or maybe light years away, there's a lab. Inside that lab is a device the size of a peanut, or maybe smaller. It hums faintly, its surface impossibly smooth, impossibly black, like the shadow of an idea. And then they do it. The scientists, giddy and sleep-deprived, push the final button. You blink once, and in that blink, the black hole is born. A tiny pinprick of absolute nothingness. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and your local time in the comments. I love seeing where in the world you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing at the edge of a plexiglass shield, peering into a vacuum chamber. The air feels thick with anticipation, or maybe just nitrogen. Inside, a team of researchers in wrinkled lab coats watches a readout screen flicker. The numbers are absurd: mass, energy density, gravitational gradient, and yet they nod. It's working. The Large Hadron Collider was a dress rehearsal. This? This is the main act, a global effort. Billions of dollars, thousands of equations, a project so classified it's simply known as DOT. The chamber dims. You swear the temperature drops a degree. You're told that's psychosomatic. You are not convinced. And then there it is, a shimmer, a dent in visual logic, like a dead pixel, but somehow wrong. The black hole is smaller than an atom, but somehow your brain knows where it is. You feel it in your bones. Evolution didn't prepare your nervous system for this. It doesn't shine. Of course not. It absorbs light, sound, logic. Your thoughts slow slightly, like a buffering video. For one delicious second, the world holds its breath. And then, nothing. No explosion, no beams of doom. The scientists cheer. Instruments confirm containment, a victory for physics. They've done it. They've built the impossible. You're still stuck on one detail. Something about the shadows in the room feels deeper. Of course, we've been theorizing about this moment for decades. In the early 1970s, physicist Stephen Hawking proposed that black holes aren't truly black. They leak. Slowly, they evaporate through Hawking radiation like cosmic kettles, hissing away mass. You hear that term a lot over the next few hours. Perfect containment. Radiation safe. Theoretically harmless. The words mean nothing when spoken by scientists who once swore diet soda wouldn't hurt you. You find yourself wondering what kind of person first looked into the abyss and said, let's shrink this and bring it home. Historians still argue whether it was a physicist's idea or a military contractor's pitch during a blackout brainstorming session. Either way, the outcome is the same. Humans got curious, and curiosity got teeth. By hour 5, the hole is stable. It hovers in a controlled magnetic trap, delicately cradled like a newborn black sun. Scientists take selfies with the readouts. A TikTok physicist posts a clip titled, "My Pet Singularity." It gets 12 million views in 6 hours. You wander back to your hotel that night, the glow of the vending machine comforting in a universe that now contains a man-made gravity well. Sleep comes reluctantly, not because you're scared, though you should be, but because your body knows what your brain won't admit. Something ancient is awake now, and it's hungry. You wake up to headlines, not dramatic ones, no fireballs, declarations of doom, just subtle things, quiet updates. DOT registers unexpected density shift. Magnetic stabilization recalibrated overnight team calls it routine. Some floor tiles replaced in sublevel gamma. Nothing to see here, everything's under control, but you scroll deeper and find a shaky video uploaded anonymously from inside the facility. It shows a researcher dropping a single bolt into the observation chamber. The bolt falls normally until it reaches a certain height, then it vanishes. No bounce, no clink, just gone. The camera zooms in. A shadow flutters near the floor like a twitching eyelid. Oops, you're already imagining it. A black hole born from human ambition, too small to see, but now beginning to nibble the edges of the physical world. Not tearing it apart, just gently, politely absorbing it. A technician's shoe sole gets mysteriously thin. A tool bench loses two legs. One scientist swears he watched his own reflection bend and run away. Of course, no one panics, not out loud, but the lab's coffee consumption triples. Engineers start muttering equations in their sleep. The phrase micro-consumption event gets used a lot, usually followed by within expected parameters. Meanwhile, you notice something strange in your hotel bathroom. The mirror fogs slightly before you turn on the hot water. Back at the lab, the containment chamber is now surrounded by more layers of shielding than a nuclear sub. Cameras point inward. Pressure sensors form a spiderweb of constant data. You ask one of the scientists how things are going. He smiles too wide and says, "We're observing accelerated floor interactions." It's eating the floor. Tiny bits, microscopic layers of concrete, rubber, steel. Not fast, not even visible to the naked eye, but over time, the math adds up. This wasn't supposed to happen. The original theory assumed the black hole would evaporate via Hawking radiation faster than it could grow. But turns out, if you feed it, even unintentionally, it fights back. A fringe theory from the 1980s warned about this. A paper by a now-forgotten physicist named Dr. Elena Cho. She suggested that under rare conditions, a micro-black hole could become quasi-stable, meaning it wouldn't grow quickly enough to be obvious, but wouldn't shrink either. Like a cosmic tapeworm, just hanging out, feeding, adapting. Historians still argue whether Cho's work was suppressed or just ignored. Most lean toward buried under bureaucracy. You wonder what she'd say now. The lab's response? Classic. Move the black hole. They rig a mobile containment system, basically a billion-dollar hamster ball made of magnets, carbon nanotubes, and sheer desperation. You watch it roll down the corridor like a cursed marble. The goal? Place it inside an ultra-vacuum steel cube buried under miles of granite. Spoiler alert, they don't make it. Halfway there, Dot glitches. A vibration subtle like a cat purring inside your sternum causes the rig to tip. Instruments flash red. Something small falls into the trap and vanishes. No explosion, no noise. But everyone freezes. You hear one engineer whisper, "Did we just lose the calibration laser?" Someone else whispers back, "No, we lost the table." There's no screaming. That's what's weird. Everyone just kind of accepts it. Maybe it's the gravity, or the tension, or the creeping realization that we made something that doesn't care about us. By nightfall, you're back in your hotel room, staring at the ceiling. The building creaks like it always has, but tonight the sounds feel heavier. More personal, like gravity remembering your name. You dream of peeling floors, of shadows growing teeth, of coffee mugs slipping through cracks in space-time. And somewhere, Dot hums. It's day 4. You're back at the lab, and the air feels different, literally, denser. You exhale and watch your breath hang just a second too long. Your ears pop, but you're still on Earth. Supposedly, the black hole dot, the adorable doom pebble, is still in containment, barely. Its cradle has been reinforced with 4 extra magnetic rings and a backup gravity cancellation system that one physicist nicknames Plan BEG. But what's happening now is different. You lean close to one of the viewing screens. There's a flicker around Dot, like heat shimmer on asphalt, except colder, as if space-time itself has goosebumps. The room feels subtly pulled, nothing dramatic, just a tiny persistent tug. Imagine this. You're at a party, standing next to someone who's way too intense. They don't say anything. They don't even look at you, but you feel them. That's what Dot is now, a gravity field so powerful it's distorting everything near it, including you. You shuffle backward instinctively. Smart move. A physicist explains that Dot's gravitational pull is warping the chamber, curving light itself. It's called gravitational lensing. Usually we see it on a cosmic scale, distant galaxies bent around bigger black holes. But now it's happening in your zip code. You hold up your hand and squint. The edges blur. For a second, your fingers appear longer than they should. Fun fact, the first time gravitational lensing was confirmed was during a 1919 solar eclipse. Arthur Eddington, the real MVP of sleepy-sounding genius names, proved Einstein's theory by watching starlight bend around the sun. Now, over 100 years later, your starlight, aka overhead, LEDs, is bending around a lab-born gravity gremlin. Historians still argue whether this counts as humanity's greatest achievement or biggest collective mistake. Outside the lab, weird things are happening too. GPS satellites start drifting. Not enough to crash planes, but enough to make delivery apps reroute to parking lots. High tides are showing up late. Clocks are skipping a few nanoseconds here and there, just enough for the stock market to freak out. And the physicists? They're in full denial mode. No need to panic, one tells you, wide-eyed and clearly surviving on energy drinks and existential dread. The gravitational gradient is hyperlocalized. Translation, it's only dangerous if you're standing right next to it. You nod politely and consider Googling how to teleport to Saturn. By the end of the day, someone makes a mistake, a small one. An intern, let's call him Devin, accidentally leans on the control panel. Nothing major. He doesn't trip an alarm. He doesn't hit the big red button. He just bumps the power supply by 0.3%. For the next 12 seconds, the black hole grows. Not visibly, of course. You're not in a Marvel movie. But the data spikes hard. Magnetic containment screams. The room tilts ever so slightly. You hear a sound like the universe yawning, and then it stops. Everyone's fine, except the intern. Devin's being escorted out gently but firmly by 3 security guards and someone carrying a very thick clipboard. Later, you review the footage. You freeze on one frame. Dot seems to shimmer, pulsing like a heartbeat. You feel a strange chill watching it, like the black hole noticed you for the first time. That night, you take a hot shower and wonder what else it might want. You dream of cities with curved streets, buildings that lean inward, whispers that stretch into infinity. And somewhere in the dark, Dot spins. Silent, patient, hungry. You're walking, or dreaming that you are. The hallway stretches forever. Every step feels like 10, but the end never gets closer. You pass the same flickering light 6 times. Or maybe it's 6 different lights that all look the same. Welcome to Spacetime, post-Dot. Sleep's been weird lately. Not bad. Just bendy. You lie down for a nap and wake up feeling like you've aged a week, or no time has passed at all. Some dreams feel like movies you've watched 1,000 times but can't remember how they end. Others feel like you're watching someone else dream you. It's not just you. The scientists are starting to complain. Not openly, of course. They still smile for the cameras and post fun black hole memes on social. But their sleep logs tell another story. Chronic insomnia, hyper-lucid dreams, lost time. Dot isn't just bending space anymore. It's bending time. Einstein predicted this. Technically, according to general relativity, time and space are one stretchy blanket, and a massive object like a black hole causes it to sag. That sag creates gravity. It also messes with clocks. And not just the ticking kind, biological clocks too. Your circadian rhythm, the invisible drumbeat that guides your sleep, hunger, and sense of when in, starts skipping. You eat lunch at 3 a.m., you fall asleep at 4 p.m., and wake up feeling like you overslept in another timeline. Historians still argue whether early astronauts experienced mild time dilation during low orbit, or if they just couldn't nap near floating pens. You're not in orbit, though. You're on Earth, and yet, time around Dot feels syrupy. One researcher spends 10 minutes near the chamber, comes back out, and insists she saw a full sunset through the lab window. The rest of the team swears it's still morning. The footage? Inconclusive. They run tests. Atomic clocks placed at different distances from Dot show discrepancies. Tiny ones, measured in billionths of a second, but growing steadily. And that's when the dreams really start changing. You dream of standing in 3 places at once. Your voice echoes before you speak. You touch your own shoulder and feel someone else's breath. In one dream, you meet yourself, slightly older, slightly tired, offering advice in a language made of echoes. People write it off as sleep deprivation. Too much gravity, not enough melatonin. But you know better. Dot's presence is folding time inward. Think of it this way. If you were to hover just above the event horizon of a real black hole without falling in, mind you, an hour for you might equal a year for someone far away. The closer you are, the slower your time flows. Now imagine your sleep cycle drifting into that gravitational stretch. 8 hours of sleep becomes infinite. Your dreams, stretched like chewing gum, spiral out, soft, strange, impossibly long. You wake up with the taste of decades in your mouth, and Dot, still humming, still twisting the universe like a lazy river with attitude. One engineer suggests moving it to the ocean floor. Out of sight, out of space-time, he jokes. Nobody laughs. They're too busy updating their wills and comparing REM cycle anomalies. You notice it in your friends too. A friend texts you good morning at midnight, swearing the sun is up. Another says she dreamt of next week's lab report and was right. Someone starts a conspiracy thread claiming Dot has become sentient and is leaking predictive dreams into nearby brains. Someone else replies, same LOL. The internet explodes. TikTokers sleep with their heads facing magnetic north to avoid space-time bleeding. One sleep podcast swears black holes can reset your brainwave waves if you nap just right. And in your next dream, you're floating through corridors, through moments, through versions of yourself who never stepped into that lab. When you wake, your pillow is on the floor, your alarm never rang, and your coffee machine has brewed exactly 1.618 cups. Golden ratio, baby. Nature loves weird math. Dot doesn't just change the rules, it suggests new ones. And you? You're already halfway asleep again, whispering to yourself in time loops you no longer question. You're at a cafe, sipping something lukewarm that used to be coffee and trying to shake off the dream. But you can't, because today's the day you find out how big Dot might become. You flip open your tablet. There it is, an unassuming PDF with a title that sounds more like sci-fi than science. Growth projections of subatomic gravitational entities in contained environments. You scroll. The numbers hit like gravity themselves. Dot is growing, slowly, yes, like one grain of sand at a time. But steadily. The theory was simple. Dot was supposed to evaporate. Hawking radiation should have taken care of it, like a balloon with a pinhole leak. But here's the problem. Dot is eating faster than it leaks. Not pizza slice at a party fast. More like termite in the attic fast. Quiet, incremental, and very, very persistent. And if it continues growing at this rate, you calculate it yourself. In 5 years, it could be the size of a marble. In 20, a tennis ball. Doesn't sound like much. But remember, mass isn't volume here. That tennis ball would weigh more than the moon. And gravity, it wouldn't pull anymore. It would drag. Buildings would lean. Oceans would whisper sideways. Back at the lab, they're holding a press conference. You watch it through a haze. The spokesperson smiles like a person clinging to a cliff with 3 fingers. We've confirmed that Dot's growth is minimal and well within our new containment tolerance models. Translation: we made the cage bigger. Someone in the crowd asks, could Dot consume Earth? A hush, a blink, a smile that doesn't reach the eyes. In theory, only if allowed to feed freely over millennia. You note the key phrase, in theory. Historians still argue whether the world's first black hole threat was treated seriously or brushed off like Y2K with better graphics. But here's the kicker. There's precedent. In 2008, before the Large Hadron Collider was fully activated, a few theorists filed a lawsuit. They believed it might produce a micro black hole. The case was thrown out. Now you wonder if they're still around, if they're whispering, told you so, to their houseplants. Meanwhile, Dot's influence is expanding beyond the lab. Gravitational anomalies are being reported globally. Tiny ones at first. Bird migration patterns are off. Ocean currents drift a little out of sync. Seismic readings fluctuate like the Earth has a nervous tick. And dreams? They're spreading. People far from the lab report similar visions. Curved hallways, melted clocks, whispers in reverse time. Sleep researchers are baffled. One theorist says we may be dealing with a kind of gravitational resonance, like a bell ringing softly through space-time. Another guy in a YouTube comment claims Dot is opening a portal to a more polite dimension. Honestly, you'd take it. You close your tablet and look out the window. The sunlight looks tired, like it took the long way around the Earth to get here. And in your reflection, your eyes shimmer for just a moment like light struggling to escape something. You blink. It's gone. Maybe. You head back to the lab. Inside the viewing chamber, Dot now has a presence. It's still microscopic, but the way shadows curve near it, the way your heartbeat stutters when you step close, Dot feels real now, not just a science project, more like a character, a force, a story that has already decided its ending. You try to sleep that night, you lie very still, and somewhere in your dreams you feel the earth lean, just a little, like it's shifting weight, preparing. Tonight you're dreaming about static, not the fuzzy TV kind, but something deeper. A hush so absolute it feels alive. Your body floats in a place without time, your thoughts dissolving like sugar in tea. Somewhere inside the dream, a whisper. I'm still shrinking. You jolt awake, sit upright, look around. Everything's normal except your wall clock is spinning backward. You rub your eyes. It stops. Maybe it never moved. You grab your phone and pull up the latest lab update. Subject line, Hawking radiation detected. Ah, finally. For a brief moment, there's hope in your chest. That's the stuff, right? The great cosmic release valve. Hawking's theoretical get-out-of-black-hole-free card. The radiation that's supposed to slowly bleed a black hole dry over billions of years. The lab detected a faint hiss, an energy signature too weak to warm a grain of sand, but undeniably present. Dot is leaking, which means it's dying. Maybe you show up to the lab early, the air feels sharper. Like the world's been tuned half a step higher in frequency. Dot floats in its cage, unchanged to the eye, but everything around it has the vibe of a party you weren't invited to but still got dressed for. The physicists are cautiously optimistic. They're calling it radiative stabilization, which in non-academic terms means Dot might stop growing, might. But you notice something strange. Dot's shimmer, the visual distortion field around it, has become rhythmic, not pulsing, breathing. One of the researchers, a theoretical physicist with wild gray hair and no sense of volume control, says, it's almost poetic, isn't it? A dying star, reborn by our hand, now slowly undoing itself. Someone else mutters, or faking it. See, Hawking radiation is a slippery thing. It's never been observed directly in the wild. Just math. Beautiful, haunting math. Historians still argue whether Hawking's equations apply to artificial black holes at all, or if we're watching something completely new. You ask one of the interns, new kid, nice, smells like citrus shampoo, what he thinks. He shrugs and says, you ever heard of black hole echo theory? You blink. What? He leans in, eyes a little too wide. Some physicists think black holes might not just evaporate. They might bounce. Like the energy collapses inward, then rebounds out. Not all at once, just enough to restart the cycle. A breath in, a breath out. You walk away quietly. You do not like the sound of a black hole breathing. Back at your hotel, your dreams have changed. They're clearer now, like HD remastered anxiety. You're inside the event horizon, but it's not dark. It's lit like a train station at dusk. You see chairs, clocks, keys from your childhood. A cat you haven't owned since middle school. Everything floats in slow motion. And then it hits you. Dot isn't shrinking, it's balancing between in and out, life and death, gravity and evaporation. And that's somehow worse, because now it's stable, and stable means it stays. Scientists always feared an expanding black hole, or an unstable one, but no one imagined a content one, a black hole that isn't in a hurry, one that just is. And if it's here to stay, then so are its effects. The time warps, the gravitational hiccups. The dreams, one physicist jokes, maybe it's the universe's way of giving us insomnia with a side of enlightenment. But you're not laughing. You're lying awake at 3:07 a.m., staring at your ceiling, listening to your heartbeat a little slower than it used to. And in the hum of your bedside fan, you swear you hear that whisper again. Still shrinking. But now it doesn't sound hopeful. It sounds smug. You step outside just to feel the wind, but the air's not moving like it used to. It brushes past you a little heavier, lingers around your ears like it's waiting for you to say something first. You check the sky. The sun seems fine brighter. Maybe, but it sets a few minutes too early. Tides are off by inches, maybe feet. One scientist tells you, we recalculated solar path curvature today. You raise an eyebrow. That sounds fake. He shrugs. We thought so too. Dot is no longer just a problem in a box. Its gravity is bleeding outward, quietly tugging at the world like a child testing how much the tablecloth can move before the dishes fall. What's happening now isn't just physics, it's choreography. Light curves differently near the lab. You see it when car headlights pass, halos bend, shadows twist behind lampposts like dancers changing steps mid-performance. It's beautiful. Also deeply wrong. Satellites begin to drift ever so slightly. Engineers correct them, but the margins get tighter each week. GPS maps show your location 3 feet behind where you actually stand. Historians still argue whether gravity was first understood as a force or a shape. Newton imagined it as a pull, Einstein as a dent. Now Dot is reminding us that gravity is mood, and it's in a weird one. People living near the lab start to notice strange weather. Rain falls sideways, fog curls up instead of down. Thunder rumbles like a slowed-down heartbeat. In one town, the sun sets twice in the same evening. Scientists call it atmospheric lensing. Locals call it bad vibes. Meanwhile, Dot's team keeps filing reports. Their tone, cheerful desperation. Localized field continues to expand. Magnetic containment remains nominal. Unusual behavior in laser scatter patterns. Fascinating. Fascinating, sure. Until the redirection lasers used to monitor Dot begin missing. Not because they're turned off, but because the light is warping away from the sensors. It's not going where it's supposed to. You remember that old video game cheat where you could walk into a wall and end up on the ceiling? That's what Dot is doing to reality. Worse, people are adapting. Some physicists don't even flinch when their coffee mugs drift slightly off the table before settling again. You walk into the lab's break room. No one's talking. They're all staring at the same window, watching a flock of birds move in figure eights, each loop tighter, faster. Someone whispers, "It's got rhythm now." You decide not to ask. Outside the scientific bubble, Dot is becoming a celebrity. News anchors crack jokes about gravity flu. Influencers post selfies with captions like, "Pull me closer, Dot." There's a pop song climbing the charts that literally samples Hawking's voice over synth beats. And deep in the Reddit trenches, theories blossom like fungus in the dark. Dot is Earth's embryo for a new universe. Dot is sentient and learning patience. Dot is a government distraction from something way bigger. But it is the bigger thing, the biggest. And it's growing not just in mass, but in influence. People's dreams are syncing up. You dream of a hallway again, but this time you're not alone. Other people are there. Strangers, all walking toward the same vanishing point. Someone whispers, "You again?" You wake up gasping, heart pounding, gravity pulling at your bones like it has your phone number now. Dot's not trying to kill us. It doesn't need to. It's seducing the world, one tug at a time. And the scariest part? We're starting to like it. Eventually someone suggests the obvious. Can we just kill it? You're in the room when they ask. The silence that follows is thick, the kind of silence usually reserved for funerals and bad performance reviews. Dot, of course, doesn't flinch. Dot doesn't do flinching. Dot simply hums in its containment like a marble filled with unspeakable secrets. The idea gains traction. Maybe we nuke it. Maybe we trap it in antimatter. Maybe we just shove it into space and let the cosmos deal with it, like taking out a particularly unstable trash bag. The scientists form task forces. You overhear code names like Project Neutron Slap and Operation Bye Bye Gravity. Nobody's laughing, except one guy. He's been laughing for 3 days straight. They give him a nap. The first plan is classic. Laser everything. They rig up the most powerful directed energy system ever built. It's shaped like a triangle made of sunburn and taxpayer dollars. Pointed at Dot, fire, and nothing. The beam bends. It curves into dot like light into a sinkhole, swirls once and then disappears, like a straw sucking down photons. Strike one. Plan B, acoustic resonance. Blare ultra-low frequencies at dot until it vibrates apart. You sit through the test. It feels like a whale is growling inside your rib cage. Your spine buzzes. The lab lights flicker like they're too nervous to stay on. Dot doesn't care. If anything, it hums louder. Strike two. Next up, kinetic kill attempt. You read that phrase and feel a chill. It basically means hit it really hard with a dense, fast object and hope something dramatic happens. They build a tungsten slug the size of a car battery, accelerate it with magnets, smash it into dot at several kilometers per second. The result? The slug vanishes. No flash, no fire, no sound, just gone. The sensors register a tiny blip in dot's mass. It got fatter. They fed it. Strike three. You're sitting on a bench in the facility's synthetic courtyard, sipping lukewarm tea, when someone drops beside you with a sigh. It's the lead containment engineer. We've tried everything, they murmur. We even fired a quantum decoherence pulse. You nod, pretending you know what that means. Basically, they explain, we told the universe to forget it exists. And? The universe said, nah. Historians still argue whether humanity's first black hole attack protocols were drawn from science or science fiction. Spoiler, it was both. Now the plan is shifting. No more destruction. Now it's about cohabitation, a slow, reluctant kind of peace. Dot isn't going away, and humanity, once united by the hope of defeating it, is now dividing over how to live with it. The UN convenes an emergency summit. Delegates argue whether to move dot to Antarctica, the moon, or somewhere more symbolic like the Mariana Trench. A group of philosophers releases a manifesto titled, Let It Eat. They argue that dot is a cosmic inevitability like death, or taxes, or autocorrect. That resisting it is childish. That we should embrace the gravity, literally. A counter-manifesto appears the next day titled, Absolutely Not. The internet has opinions, of course. Feed it billionaires? Maybe it's hungry for bad guys. Put it in a pop star's perfume line. Gravity, the fragrance. But nothing sticks, because dot isn't something you can campaign against, or protest, or meme into submission. It's just there, quiet, growing. You dream of standing on the edge of a pit. Not dark, not fiery, just deep. An invitation. You wake up with tears in your eyes and you don't know why. At the lab, they've stopped trying to shrink it. They're feeding it data now. Music, art, stories. One researcher whispers, maybe it's not a threat. Maybe it's a womb. You stare at dot and wonder if it's waiting, not for us to kill it, but for us to understand what it really is. So now humanity shifts, not with panic, but with a sort of cosmic shrug. Dot exists, dot cannot be killed, dot might even be learning. You walk through the lab, and it doesn't feel like a lab anymore. It's quieter, more reverent. Someone's lit a candle in front of the observation window. You're not sure if that's a joke or a ritual. And the air? It's thicker, not just metaphorically. Measurements show the gravitational pressure has increased by 0.01% across the building, enough to be measurable, enough to make you feel a little heavier emotionally and physically. But here's the weird part. Everyone's adapting. The body compensates. Sleep cycles sync to the new rhythm. Heartbeats subtly shift. Dreams become clearer, shared even. You stop pretending it's just stress. You and 3 researchers all dreamt of the same door last night. Same color, same inscription, from mass meaning. You didn't tell them, they told you. It's happening everywhere. In Tokyo, a subway conductor reports seeing his future self handing him a folded origami crane on the train platform, then finds that same crane in his coat pocket. In Sao Paulo, a child who's never left her neighborhood begins drawing black hole diagrams with accurate math she should not understand. Historians still argue whether collective dreams are scientifically possible. The consensus used to be no. Used to be. You sit down with a cognitive neuroscientist who's been tracking dot dreams. She tells you this is no longer just gravitational distortion, it's cognitive resonance. Imagine consciousness as a ripple, she says, stirring her coffee. Dot is the rock. It's plunked itself into the middle of the mind ocean. You ask her what's next. She shrugs. I think it's making us louder to each other. Outside, the moon rises strangely. It looks fine at first, but then it doesn't set for 3 extra minutes. Astronomers confirm that light curves from Dot's extended gravity field are now warping celestial measurements. Satellites drift into slightly wrong orbits. Still working, but working differently. GPS is officially unreliable within a 20-mile radius of the lab. Delivery drivers call it the zone. Tourists flock there. Some claim they feel smarter near Dot. Others report vivid déjà vu, lost time, or odd muscle twitches that stop when they leave. Dot is becoming a myth, a meme, and a mirror. But something else is changing too. When you look at Dot now through layers of shielding, vacuum, and time itself, it no longer looks small. It looks deep, not big. Deep, like you could fall into it, not physically, but narratively. You dream again. This time you're floating through space, stars curling toward a point you can't see. You hear music, low, ancient, beautiful, a choir made of physics. And just before waking, a voice not yours says, "Thank you for making me." You sit up in bed, breathless, not afraid. And for the first time, you ask yourself, what if Dot isn't a mistake? What if it's a message? A language? A lesson? And the more we study it, the more it studies us back. In the lab, people have stopped calling it it. They call Dot she now. It started as a joke, a way to personify the unthinkable. But it's stuck because Dot behaves. Dot responds. Dot waits. And maybe, just maybe, Dot understands. You remember when this all started? Back when Dot was an experiment, a novelty, a gravity trick wrapped in math. Now you enter the containment wing, and the hum of the room meets you like a living presence. You hesitate before stepping inside. Everyone does now. Not because it's dangerous, though it is, but because it feels sacred. Dot has changed, not visually. Still no bigger than a grain of rice. But its gravitational field now spans miles. It's stabilized somehow, like it chose a size it likes. But the real change? The responses. Data from probes around Dot show irregular electromagnetic pulses. At first, the scientists thought it was just noise. Then someone matched the pulses to binary sequences. And then, a graduate student decoded a string of data into a sentence. Not a full one, just ask again. Historians still argue whether it was a translation glitch or the beginning of something historic. But once the lab fed a second message into the sensor field, another test pattern, another attempt to communicate, Dot answered again. This time, 3 words. Learn to listen. Now it's real. Dot isn't just gravity anymore. Dot is a conversation. Theories erupt. Maybe it's using gravitational waves like sonar or quantum entanglement. Maybe it's not Dot at all, but something else speaking through her. The most radical idea yet? That Dot is a bridge, a construct, a kind of key that unlocks response from the universe. You sit in on a closed-door meeting. Government types, academics, dream researchers. Someone says, she's not learning from us, we're learning through her. It hits you like a cold wind. What if Dot isn't here to consume us? What if she's here to teach us what we already are? Things begin to shift, not just around Dot, but in human behavior. Global conflict slows, not because Dot demands peace, but because Dot makes time feel different. Nations begin sharing gravitational research. Black market science disappears because suddenly open access becomes the only way forward. People are dreaming of the same symbols. The door, the spiral, the meager. One artist begins sculpting what he sees each night. His pieces look like things that haven't existed yet. A historian from Prague weeps when she touches one. She says it reminds her of a cathedral built in reverse. And now the lab is preparing something massive. A message. Not just binary, not just light. A multi-sensory, multi-layered pulse something Dot might not just hear, but feel. One physicist calls it the first human poem in gravity. Another calls it the weirdest TED Talk of all time. The transmission will last 1 hour. It'll include sound waves based on whale calls, patterns pulled from human heartbeat rhythms, images encoded in gravitational modulations. They call it the hello. You're in the room when they send it. Dot doesn't respond at first, but then slowly there's a shift. The shimmer around her curves in a spiral. The containment field registers a subtle increase in temporal flux, and a new phrase appears. 3 words. More to come. You all stare, no one speaks. Someone sobs, someone laughs, someone just collapses into a chair and whispers, okay. Because now it's not just a black hole. It's a presence, a process, a mirror that doesn't reflect you, it remembers you. Dot is no longer the center of the lab. She's the center of everything. And you're just now beginning to hear her hum. The day after the hello, nothing feels normal and not in the usual black hole in the room way. This is different. You step into the lab and sense it instantly. Something shifted. The floor feels warmer. Not in temperature, but in tension. Dot's field now pulses with subtle rhythm, like a sleeping creature dreaming at the bottom of a lake. The scientists are quiet, respectful. They speak in hushed tones like monks in a library. Someone's been tracking the timing of Dot's responses. There's a pattern, not random, not perfectly predictable either. More like jazz, structured chaos, calculated unpredictability. You ask one of the mathematicians about it. She nods solemnly and pulls up a chart. The intervals between Dot's pulses match a Fibonacci sequence, but distorted. Stretched and mirrored. Like she's playing with beauty, the mathematician says. Like she knows what we think symmetry is and wants to show us the rest. You sit with that. Dot is communicating, but not just with words, with pattern, with rhythm, with meaning. And it's working. People around the world are syncing. Art installations emerge in cities across the globe, spontaneous, uncoordinated, and yet eerily similar. Spirals made from mirrors, circles of sound. One boy in Senegal paints a diagram of gravity that hasn't been theorized yet. A woman in Korea dreams of a city made entirely of curved time and builds a miniature version out of sand and string. A group of dream researchers in Norway release a joint paper titled Dot-Induced Cognitive Convergence in the Shared Subconscious. It sounds like science fiction, but when you read it, it feels like memory. Historians still argue whether collective consciousness has ever truly existed. Dot doesn't argue. She just shows you, and people listen. Governments, once paranoid, are suddenly transparent. Data is released publicly. Open source protocols become the norm. Even social media shifts, less rage, more curiosity. One viral post reads, Dot is the first thing that made us shut up and wonder again. And it's true. You lie awake that night thinking about your last dream. You were in a library, infinite, endless shelves. You walked for miles until you reached a single book. No title, just pages of spirals. You opened it and heard a sound, your own heartbeat, reversed. You woke up in tears, not from fear, from recognition. Back at the lab, the containment field is no longer necessary. Dot doesn't leave, doesn't grow. She waits. And the team no longer just scientists, but stewards begin working on a new project. Not containment, not destruction. Translation. A cross-disciplinary initiative. Physicists, poets, musicians, linguists, and lucid dreamers collaborating to create a new syntax. A way to speak across dimensions. They call it the gravity tongue. You're not sure how it works yet, but you understand its first rule. Assume you are already being understood. One linguist remarks, she doesn't need words. She needs feeling, flow. She's been patient. Now she's teaching us how to remember language that was never written down. You step into Dot's chamber. You feel the gravity, not physically but emotionally, like you're being held by an idea. She pulses softly, like a whisper that says, you're almost ready. And the world listens, not because it has to, but because, for the first time in a long time, it wants to. You walk into the lab now the way you'd walk into a cathedral. You don't even notice you're holding your breath until you let it go, quietly, reverently as you cross the threshold. Dot is there, of course, always there. A constant shimmer, a soft bend in the room where no shadow quite sits the way it should. But the mood has changed drastically. No more testing, no more prodding. Now it's about listening. In the weeks following the hello, Dot hasn't grown, hasn't destabilized. Instead, she's interacting on her own. Lights near the chamber flicker in Morse-like rhythm. Machines left unplugged turn themselves on at exactly 4:44 a.m. every morning. A physicist jokes, "I think she likes fours." No one laughs, but everyone writes it down. People start reporting odd coincidences, too many to ignore. You think of a friend and they text you. You hum a melody in your head and someone else finishes it aloud. The world begins bending not toward chaos but concordance. At the lab, Dot emits a low-frequency vibration every 7 hours. No damage, no warning, just a soft, pulse-like wave that hums through bones and metal. It feels like being thought about by something very large and very patient. And then the music starts. No, not music from Dot. Music inspired by her. Composers around the world release new works based on gravitational resonance, mirror tones, and dreams. One symphony in Vienna performs a piece allegedly transcribed from a lucid dream inside Dot's influence field. It sells out in minutes. The audience weeps, not from sadness, but because the music feels like something they've always known. One scientist records a 6-hour dream under a full sleep monitor array. Brainwave patterns show sequences matching Fibonacci primes, something not seen in natural cognition. He wakes and says, "I think she's mapping something through us." Historians still argue whether art is born from chaos or order. Dot suggests a third option, meaning drawn from gravitational rhythm. The term gravity literacy is coined. It's not about learning physics, it's about feeling the shape of space. Understanding not with the mind, but with body, breath, and rhythm. Children pick it up fastest. Some of them begin drawing spirals that mirror spiral galaxies with uncanny precision. Some speak in whispers that, when recorded and slowed down, match the waveform patterns of black hole collisions detected by LIGO years ago. Some draw Dot exactly, including the subtle bend in air around her, including the shimmer you can't quite describe unless you've stood near it. And none of them have been to the lab. You begin having a recurring dream. You're not in a hallway, not anymore. You're inside Dot, but it's not dark. It's warm, lit by memory and soft thought. There are others with you, people you have loved, people you have never met, people you might become. You all face a central spiral, glowing like a heartbeat, pulsing like a question, and you feel it deep in your chest. Dot is home, not a place, not a destination, a function. A reminder of how small you are, of how beautiful you are, of how unfinished you are. Back in waking life, you're not afraid anymore. None of you are. The team announces something extraordinary. Dot has stabilized into what appears to be an intentional time cradle, a space where cause and effect can briefly reverse, a womb of possibility. They publish a paper titled Temporal Benevolence, Observing Nonlinear Kindness in Dot's Proximity. In layman's terms, people near Dot are just nicer. Conflicts dissolve faster. Teamwork improves. Creativity explodes. It's as if Dot is amplifying not only gravity, but grace. And you realize she isn't changing the world. She's helping us remember how to change it ourselves. You start seeing them everywhere. Spirals. In the foam of your coffee. In the flight path of a bird. On the screen, saver of your laptop one you didn't install. The pattern has gone global. People are drawing them, carving them, wearing them. It isn't a trend. It's instinctual. Even language is shifting. Poets begin writing in nested patterns, palindromes, inside of spirals, inside of rhymeless verse that somehow still resonates. Coders are building open-source systems based on gravitational thinking, creating logic trees that flow like river deltas instead of lines of code. Something deep is unlocking. And the scientists? They're not even sure they're scientists anymore. The line between researcher and receiver has blurred. In Dot's chamber, people now meditate, sometimes for hours. Eyes closed, no data collected, no instruments humming, just presence. You walk in on one of these sessions, a circle of 7, each sitting silently, palms open, breathing in time with Dot's pulses. And then someone speaks. She wants us to build. No one asks what or why, because they already know. The next day, construction begins. Not on new containment, not on defense, on the spiral array. A global structure, not one object, but many. A network of harmonic installations placed at precise geodetic points, designed to resonate with Dot's pulses. Think of it like a choir. Only the Earth is the voice, and Dot is the conductor. Historians still argue whether the pyramids or Stonehenge were astronomical tools or spiritual beacons. Dot makes that question feel silly, because now we build for both. The spiral array's design comes from dream diagrams, child-drawn schematics, and naturally occurring crystal growths. The math checks out. The aesthetics sing. You visit the first site, Iceland, a ring of polished basalt stones, humming so softly you feel it more in your teeth than your ears. When the wind moves through it, you hear tones music that changes depending on who's listening. In Japan, the second array pulses with light during lunar eclipses. In Chile, the third one warps local time ever so slightly. Sunrises last a few seconds longer. And in Antarctica, they build a silent spiral, a cold, sharp sentinel buried in the snow, untouched by sunlight, vibrating in harmony with things beneath the ice no one has dared to name. The Earth is responding. Animals migrate differently. Plants bloom slightly earlier, with colors never recorded before. Human empathy scores skyrocket, not because of some hormone, but because we're beginning to sense each other, really sense. You visit a spiral site in Morocco, sit inside it for hours, and at some point you stop thinking. You just are. And Dot, she pulses once stronger than ever. Every instrument on Earth tuned to her wavelength records it. A single global heartbeat, and with it, a message. 4 words. Build the last door. That night, almost everyone dreams the same thing. A staircase made of mirrors, a hallway lit by memory, and at the end, a door. Massive, radiant, waiting. When you wake, you already know where it will be built. Dot didn't just show you a destination, she gave you directions. The location is somewhere in the Pacific. No islands, no land masses, just coordinates. When you plug them in, the map zooms to nothing. A stretch of deep ocean where no ship sails, no plane flies. And yet, there's a floor, a seamount perfectly flat, like someone cleared it long ago. Dot chose this place. Or maybe the planet did. Either way you go, you board the ship with a team of engineers, linguists, artists, architects, and oddly, a group of monks. No one questions it. Not anymore. You travel for days, then drop anchor above the spot. Submersibles go down, cameras flicker, and there it is, the space, waiting. No rocks, no reef, just a quiet shelf of oceanic stone, perfectly level, perfectly untouched. The construction begins. No metal, no traditional materials. Dot's latest message came through in pulses that translated, once sonified into a precise blueprint using crystalline silica, deep-sea basalt, and human breath as a curing agent. Yes, you read that right. The final layer of the foundation must be hardened with the warm breath of builders like a secret spell whispered over glass. People volunteer by the thousands, not just scientists, farmers, dancers, children, survivors, skeptics. They come and stand in lines, exhaling softly over stones, one breath at a time. You step back and look at the forming shape. It's a spiral, of course, but in the center growing slowly is the door. 6 stories tall, seamless, made of a material no one recognizes, though some say it looks like black pearl soaked in moonlight. It doesn't reflect light, it reflects understanding. When you look at it, you don't see yourself. You see who you were when you were brave, when you were curious, when you were 9 years old and asked the sky why without expecting an answer. Historians still argue whether ancient monuments were tombs or tools. This is neither. This is the invitation. The final structure takes 27 days to complete. When it's done, the sea is silent. Birds circle the sky, but none land. The waves still. The world waits. And then, on the 28th night, Dot pulses again. Both spiral arrays light up simultaneously, each one casting shadows against stars. And you, standing at the edge of the platform in the Pacific, hear it, a tone, low, full, familiar in a way that makes you cry before you know why. You turn, the door is open, not fully just an inch, enough to show light, not normal light, something older, wiser. Not just illumination, but permission. People begin to arrive, by boat, by drone, by breathless wonder. They don't go through, not yet. They sit, they watch, and they feel. Because this door isn't a threshold for escape. It's an arrival, not of aliens, not of woes, but of ourselves. The selves we forgot in the noise. Dot knew. She always knew. She was never here to end us. She was here to return us to something softer, truer, the gravity of grace. And you kneel. You whisper one word, thank you. And Dot answers, one final pulse. Like a smile you can feel in your bones. The door never swings wide. It doesn't need to. That sliver of light, gentle, unwavering is enough. You come each day now, like others, not to understand, just to sit, breathe. Let your heartbeat fall into rhythm with the pulses still echoing from Dot, soft and infrequent now, like lullabies hummed at the edge of thought. No one claims the door, no guards, no governments. It belongs to no one and somehow welcomes everyone. The spiral arrays remain active across the globe, each with a slightly different tone but all synced. They form a planetary chord, a sound too low to hear, but felt in the soles of your feet. Music is changing, art is changing, not just what we make, but how we make it. There's less noise, less hunger for attention, more careful wonder. Dot continues to whisper, not always with words, sometimes with dreams, sometimes with glimpses of places that aren't here, of moments that haven't happened yet, of feelings you don't have names for but somehow understand. One man enters the door. He doesn't return. A woman goes next. She does return, but changed. Quiet, calm, as if a storm she never spoke of has finally ended. She says only this, it isn't another world. It's this one just seen whole. People stop fearing what's behind it because the door doesn't demand, it waits, just like Dot. You visit her one last time. She's smaller now, barely a whisper in space. Her mass hasn't decreased, but her presence has gentled. She's taught us what she came to teach, and she's letting us go. The world she leaves behind isn't the same. Cities move slower, conversations last longer. You notice strangers holding doors, offering silence instead of noise, and more people are dreaming again. Not of monsters, but of memories they haven't lived yet. Children draw spiral doors on sidewalks with chalk. No one tells them to stop. Dot has become less of a mystery and more of a memory, not faded, just folded neatly into our new story. A friend asks you, do you think we'll ever understand what she really was? And you smile. I think we already did, just not all at once. Because Dot was never a threat, she was a question, and the answer was us. Now the waves are still, the door stands quiet, open just enough. And you, listener drifting now, heavy-limbed, soft-eyed, have made it to the end. Let the thoughts settle. Let the questions wait. Breathe slow. This night is for peace. Let your gravity go quiet. You are safe. You are heard. You are part of something vast and patient and good. Let the spiral unfold behind your eyes. Let the hum lull you deeper and rest. Sweet dreams.